Exhale, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to, what is it, episode 8?
Yes.
Episode 8 of Self-CAV. I'm a new man. I come with a different energy today. But before all of that, I'm not alone. I'm with the gang as usual. Miss Cosmo.
What's up?
And guess who's back?
Yeah.
Black again.
Welcome back. He's also a new man.
I'm also a new man.
Literally.
New creature.
100%. Given was sitting on that chair last week and he was like, Sech, you better watch out.
Yeah. I can feel the warmness.
He's getting comfortable.
Yeah.
He's saying that's his chair now.
Yeah.
It is warming up.
It's good to see you, bro.
Wait, bro. Good to be back.
Yeah.
Good to be back.
How are
Good to
things?
see you. Everything is okay. I'm good, man. I won't lie. I'm not fit, you know. It's been a plethora of emotions. It's been a lot in the past couple of weeks, but I think the overarching emotion or feeling is happiness.
Nice.
Kishapu, man. I'm not. Yeah.
Yeah. Cos, how are you?
I'm fine. I'm alive, rolling with the punches as
Yeah.
everybody does. It's about to be silly season. So I think I'm just gearing up for, December.
Yeah.
Getting dirty.
And I'm assuming you are super busy in December.
I'm trying. Yeah. Well, dates are starting to fill up now, so
Yeah.
which is good. But the more the merrier. We need as much money as we can.
Yeah.
Because there's no money in January, so something's gotta give.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Like
How
I
are
said-
you?
Yes, I was about to get into that. I finally submitted my thesis, guys. I think I have something, whatever. Can I tell you how intense it was? It was so intense that I actually shed a tear
Really.
last night. And not because I was sad or anything. I think it was for me just thinking about everything, and I was in a moment of gratitude in that time, right? Because oftentimes you do something and you see the finish line, and it's like literally before your eyes, but there's so many things in the way. A couple of episodes ago, we spoke about how I almost got deregistered, right? And so the fact that even with that happening, I got to the finish line. I think that is what was happening when I shed the tear. Yeah.
Sheesh.
It's just a lot of emotions, everything kind of coming through all at once.
Yeah.
And you finally made it.
Finally made it.
You almost didn't, but you did it.
Phew.
And you saying you want to follow?
I don't know now. He's scaring me. And he only shed one tear. Me, cry me a river, I'm telling you.
Yeah, man. Nah, that's dope, bro. Like,
Yeah.
really happy for you.
Yeah, big
really
ups.
happy for you, and shout out to you, man.
Yeah.
I think. Oh, sorry.
No, I was just going to say it's not an easy task. You put in a lot of time. You put in, that energy to also then sacrifice certain things to do what you've just done. So big ups. It's a big one.
Appreciate it. Yeah. Thanks. You were saying, Doug?
Now I was gonna say, like, having seen you throughout the journey and like what she's talking about, the challenges and the things that you had to sacrifice, the times we missed you, the times you showed up, the hair not
Hey,
being
my
cut.
man.
Like,
I'm honest.
like just a lot, But shout out to you, man. I think we've also shared about like wanting to go that route or whatever.
Yeah.
Many people who want to, but having been done all of that, shout out to you, man.
Yeah, man. So what's the idea or the direction? What actually motivated you to do your masters? Because I think a lot of people have this idea of, okay, let me just continue. Some people do it for the sake of.
Yeah.
Other people have an idea as to what it's going to do for them or how it's going to work for them. So what was the motivating factor for you?
So I moved here in 2019 from Bloemfontein. And I think I wanted to go the traditional route. And that's having a job, because you graduated, now you want to have a job, etc. But when I got here, it was so hard to get a job, literally. And I was sitting with 2 degrees. And I tried literally everything, but nothing was opening up, right? I always say some things, and the saying, Sechaba as well, that some things are caught and not taught. Some things, yes, you learn, but some things you just you observe another person and you get education from that. And spending time with my dad for about 2 years, he's an entrepreneur. Spending time with him, I then observed a lot of things, right? And so I think that was the inspiration. I fell in love with entrepreneurship, but I thought to myself, I want to immerse myself where the business world is concerned. Let me go and learn this, that, and the other. And so I decided to go back to school. However, I want to add another layer to that. We don't have a 360 of ourselves. So you might see certain things about me that I don't see, and vice versa. I think that was also a contributing factor. My dad seeing certain things and just encouraging me to go back to school. In fact, he had the conversation with both myself and my younger brother. We were both in the same class, just by the way, Mantla. So that was another contributing factor to say, hey man, I've applied for jobs and I was there. I remember when he applied for jobs that he was qualified for, but because he didn't have a master's degree, he was not considered. Wow. So I think that was another thing. Yeah. I mean, you look at jobs by the PIC, GEPF, and so on and so forth. He was probably the most qualified person in the room, but because he did not have a master's degree, he was not considered.
That's crazy.
So I think those are certain things that I thought about. But I think the biggest one was because I fell in love with entrepreneurship. I really wanted to learn about the world of business. Yeah.
That's crazy.
No, I just wanted to ask, by qualified, what do you mean if he didn't have a master? If you say he was probably the most qualified person but didn't have a master's.
So experience.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Oh, okay.
Because also sometimes certain positions require you to have a certain level or entry level of education.
Yeah.
I think that's what he's saying. So you can have your undergrad, you can have your honors, but maybe then the next step for you then to say is get a certain certification. Certification, fine, but maybe you also need a master's for you to then be a CEO or a COO, or do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that's possibly what the hindrance then maybe was.
Which is punitive if you ask me, because prior to that even, my dad had been a CIO, a CEO, and that's where the whole, he was probably the most qualified person in the room comes in, because he had been in those positions. But to your point, maybe for particular industries or particular companies, that is the criteria.
Got you.
To say you need to have a master's degree.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I'm definitely a better person, I'll tell you that for free.
Yeah.
I did not know anything about the world of business when I stepped into Gibbs.
Really?
19 months ago. No, I knew nothing. In fact, I remember during orientation, they were talking about the people in the class, that is, they were talking about this concept and that concept. And I thought to myself, I'm in over my head here. And I remember driving back home and just having a chat with God to say, Lord, I don't think that's my space. But he really settled me. And I went back. And I've learned so many things, so many things. Literally a better person.
Yeah, that's
Big sacrifice, big financial sacrifice.
450,000.
You're naive. That's the NBA. Mine was 208,000. But still, a big financial
It
sacrifice.
is. It's a lot.
That's a car. You can actually
that's
buy
a
a
lot.
car.
That's a lot. You don't even have to convince.
But you know what? I think it's a sacrifice for now, but then later on, you'll be able to step into positions where you can earn that money times 3 times 4.
100%.
Purely because of the sacrifices made
Yeah.
now. So it'll pay off. Trust me. God works in those ways as well, where you'll sacrifice something, it'll come back tenfold. So just wait for it.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what's up, man.
Shout outs. Woo woo.
Yeah.
But yeah, guys, good seeing you. I think we can get into it. We're going to start with what's popping. Sechaba and I were talking about this off air. The G20 happened this past weekend. I could not watch what was happening because it coincided with the final lap of my master's submission. What I do know, though, is that Trump thought he was doing something But that did not materialize. And what you get from that is, sure, you can be a bully, but at some point, people just stand up, to your bully tendencies, and they're like, we're tired of this, and we're not going to do this anymore. And I think that's what happened this past weekend.
100%. And Trump is actually the biggest Popeye for the week.
Momish of the week.
Moment of the week is
What
wild.
a Popeye. I mean, he looks like one, but now he really is one.
Yeah,
you
I know.
know?
He looks like one.
And if anything, all he's done is just he's taken his personal issues and he's made them, he's made the rest of the country suffer because of his own personal agendas. And I think that's not what a leader is supposed to do, because at the end of the day, you're supposed to put your personal life aside and do what's best for the people. He's not representing the American people by making those decisions. And if anything, he's put them at a back foot. So, yeah, you guys voted for him.
They really
Again.
did, eh?
So,
And again,
I
Shem.
mean, and again.
Again, they want to make it great again. So they voted again. I wanted to. Do you know what happened though at the G20?
Not really. Do you have details?
No, like I think for me that's the biggest thing. And the Kopala Sanjaj. I think for me, if I'm being honest, this was the first time knowing about the G20.
Okay.
And for some reason was made to care about it in ways that I'm like, Imana, I didn't even know this thing. And now all of a sudden I must care about it so much so, that it
I think the reason why people want you to care about it is because it's the first time it's being held on in an African country. So that in itself is history being made, right? Because every other time that they've had the G20 summit, it's always been in Europe or South America or
Yeah.
Asia or whatever. All these people, all these countries with big currencies that seem to be running the world. So the mere fact that they had agreed to then even come to Africa is them also realizing that they need to come to us and not only stealing from us or taking our exports, but at least like, let's collaborate, let's work with each other, let's see how we can build. And I think that's the whole point of the G20 summit, is having all these heads of state from all these different countries come together to say, what policies can we put together? How can we work with each other? How can we grow without necessarily, hindering each other? Because if we don't have summits like the G20, then the world's really just going to end up in World War III, and we don't need that. Do you know what I mean?
100%.
And you've got people like Trump who want to have their own personal agendas being run,
100%.
as opposed to everyone coming together in a room and saying, what can you do for me? This is what I can do for you. How do we meet each other in the
Yeah.
middle? That's essentially what the summit is.
Yeah, so from where I'm coming from, I'm not denouncing its importance or its significance, right? It's just, you saw, I don't know if you guys saw, but like the outrage that it sparked among South Africans themselves, in the sense of the preparations that went into the summit being here.
Yeah.
I'm just talking about how it was never really something that was made apparent to the South African public about its significance, right?
Okay.
In that sense, to say, oh, it's something that we should really care about. You see how you're putting it, it's actually something that I would be like, oh yeah, actually I do care. But people are being frustrated to say how the roads are clean, the police service is now delivering service, or whatever the case, or this thing is becoming more operational than it usually is. And it's like, oh, because you have guests in the house, now everything is moving like this. So I'm just coming from that sense to say, Hore, when something like that is gonna be a thing, I think we should have been made known earlier, and I don't know how much, to my ignorance, do I.
Yeah, look, I think, let me jump in there. The information has been there. The conversations have been there. In fact, one of the guys who was in my class, he works for Treasury, and they started preparing for the G20 since last year. So maybe it's how the conversations are being had that's a problem.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think government, what they should start looking into, you need to observe the public and what they are interested in.
Yeah.
One of my findings for my research, right, how innovation takes place in the South African podcasting industry, one of the themes is audiences, right? Audience dynamics actually play a big role in how podcasters innovate here in South Africa. And I think the government need to do away from the traditional way of maybe releasing information, talking about things and so on and so forth. So I think government should partner with podcasters, for instance, where this information, right, whatever it is that they want to put out there, then you can have paid campaigns, with influencers, with creators, where we talk about these things, because then it's simplified enough
Yeah.
on a platform like this. You know what I mean?
100%.
Whereas now they communicate things on Twitter, and the assumption is that everybody is on Twitter.
Yeah.
The assumption is that everybody's on social media. The assumption is that people understand this high level language, and it's like that's not the case.
Yeah.
So the preps have been there. We've been preparing for this way
Yeah.
ahead. But I think it's just how, or the platforms in which the
100%.
information was put out on.
Yeah,
That's-
I
that's
agree
a
with
problem.
you. I really agree with you, because even when you started, you said the guy from Treasury, they started planning
Yeah.
last year. They should. That's their job.
100%.
I'm talking about the average South African in that
Yes.
sense of in that sense of caring about this G20 thing. Because even though it came and went, for me it's still like, and then
Yeah.
like when Ronald Tabal did it.
It's interesting what you're saying, because my follow-up question is, do we actually care about these things? Let me ask a question. It's the 25th of November. What day is it in South Africa?
You tell us.
That's when we start to observe.
Oh yeah, the 16 days of
Yes. You know what I mean?
I was gonna say
of
Tuesday.
activism. No, I didn't know. I thought maybe
Did
he
you
was
just
going to
say
refer
Tuesday?
to. I thought he was going to refer to something completely different. That's why I was like, what are you
Yeah.
talking about? But now that he
hear
says,
you.
okay, we start to observe. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, no, 16 days of activism. I understand that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I say all of that to say, oftentimes, information is there. It's like, there's always that gap between knowledge and action. And maybe now I'm introducing something else. But information is always there. The question is, do we care enough that the information is there, and do we pursue, the
I think
information?
I think with regards to the average South African and them possibly caring, it's an impact on, okay, cool, this thing is happening. If I care, it would be, how does it affect me in the long run? You know what I mean? And I think that's the information that needs to be communicated to the rest of the country. I mean, when we had the World Cup here, everybody knew what was happening and everybody cared,
Yeah.
because then we cared in the fact that we were doing something big in the world. We were having all of our favorite sports stars were coming to South Africa. We were building stadiums. It was the happiest time of our lives. Do you know what I mean? 2010, everybody got involved.
Definitely.
It was about how it affects you as the average South African. Yes, now the G20 is about the world leaders and we are hosting it. And from a governmental perspective, it is, yes, us making history. But I think what the government needs to then do is communicate how we are going to benefit in the long run. So I think maybe that's what you want them to communicate. It's not necessarily about the summit being held here. Yeah, we could host the summit anyway at this point, because it's just a 3-day thing. These guys come together, they chat policy, they go home. How are we going to benefit from it in the long run? And I think that's what we need to we need to get that information from government.
And just also playing devil's advocate, right? And I'm going to reference my research a lot, and you said this as well. People might want to consume podcasts, right? But if data is an issue, if for instance you're hungry and you have nothing to eat, if you don't have electricity, you don't have running water, why would your mind be focused on consuming podcasts? So again, you look at the G20, sure, it's happening, but it's like I'm faced, as the average South African, I'm faced with so many social ills. Like I said, electricity not being there, not having running water, and why should I still care about it? So that's me playing the devil's advocate and agreeing with you to say, yeah, maybe government, the messages should be simplified, and they should really make us see why we should care about it.
Yeah. I think the most recent thing I can use as an example is the Women for Change shutdown.
Yeah.
Right? It has been existing for I don't know how long, right? But they made everyone care. And they made it a point to say you must care about 1, 2, 3, 4. Wabo. And the manner at which they made it what's this, accessible to people is also what communicated the care. You understand? Because now it's like a thing. Okay, we know that okay, they're trying to address 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, wabo, and they approached it in a manner that, for me personally, at least, I would like to think, okay, in a manner that even I, as someone who was probably like, let me say, ignorant to their ails or whatever it is that they were trying to or shut the country down for. Because I remember the first time I saw the purple thing, like the purple profile picture. I think we were taking pictures with my sister, and she's the one who asked and was like, King,
What's happening?
profiles a purple. Wabo. And to my ignorance, I was like, you know, when you remove what's a profile picture,
Yeah.
it just puts like a
Random.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah,
the random
colour,
thing.
yeah.
Yeah, wabo. And I'm like, man, I'm too but two about to into profile picture tabon. And then my wife was the one who was like, no, there is this thing, wabo.
Yeah.
Yeah, my wife. Yeah, my wife. My wife was like 1, 2, 3, 4, wabo. And to then that's when I actually started paying attention to it and following the whole thing. So I just feel like with the
G20.
the G20 or anything we need to care about as a society that needs to be cared about is still very much not translated in the most simplest terms.
Got you.
You know?
Definitely agree with that. Definitely agree with that. Speaking of the whole woman for change thing, like I said earlier on, we are observing 16 days of activism, right? So today marks the official start of this year's observation of 16 days of activism for no violence against women and children. It's a global movement the country joined nearly 3 decades ago. So every year, this day is observed with speeches, events, reflections on the alarming stats of the victims. But women and children continue to be murdered to no end. Every year, the same calls for better plans to address this are made. However, very little seems to change if crime statistics are anything to go by. What role can we play in combating this? Because I feel like it's the same thing every single year, right? You it's like the theoretical aspect, of anything, but we never really delve into what practical things we can do.
I think with that conversation, I mean, firstly, Women for Change have also implored for everybody to keep up their purple hearts and the purple profile pictures just until the end of the 16 days of activism, because yes, it was initially for the 21st of November, and I think it did what it needed to do, because President Cyril Ramaphosa did declare it, that GBV is a national disaster in South Africa. So at least there was a little bit of movement that was kind of done from that perspective. But now we also then need to observe the 16 days of activism for GBV in this country until the 10th of November. So please keep up your purple hearts and your purple
10th of
profile
December,
picture. 10th
yeah.
of December, sorry. But now, the concern that I think everybody has, and kind of also to answer your question, is what now? Because he declared it a state of national disaster, but there's no national council that has been put together to actually combat this thing. Because generally when there's a national disaster, there's immediate funds and immediate action is taken to then combat this national disaster. The same way, for instance, when we had COVID, there was immediate changes to say, okay, cool, let's put together a council because we need to deal with this thing immediately, and then everything else needs to be put on the back foot because it is a national disaster. But there has no action been done. There's no national council to actually combat this thing, which is a point for concern, because you can say something, but what are you doing about it?
Yeah.
And I think from a normal South African perspective, I think the call to action for everybody else, because obviously maybe we don't have the resources or the finances to get involved, then I think the biggest thing is conversation. It's about calling each other out. It's about protecting the people in your life. Because essentially that's what it is about. It's about the violence that is being put onto women. But who is effecting that violence? It's the men in this country. So if you know men who are in positions or who have done something in this regard, it's about calling them out. It's about calling them to task. Maybe even getting involved in getting them arrested, whatever the case may be. At some point, there needs to be consequence for these actions, and that's why it feels like nothing's being done, because 3 decades later, like you're mentioning, but we're still not feeling the difference.
Yeah.
We're not feeling the difference because people are talking about it in their silos, but they're not actually actioning anything in it. Are you calling out your friends who you know have been in positions where they're beating up their girlfriends or they are sexually assaulting women in clubs? Are you calling them to task to tell them to stop? Are you taking them to police stations? Are you actually creating consequences for their actions? That's what the conversations for normal South Africans need to happen. From a governmental position, the National Council needs to get involved by training police officers to deal with these cases, because I don't think that they've been trained. Every time a woman goes to a police station, they are scared to even speak up because they feel they're going to be dealt with some man who's going to say to them, go and talk to your boyfriend, you guys will be fine. And it's like, no, he just beat me up. I almost ended up in a hospital. You're going to tell me I must go and talk to him and sort out my marital problems. Maybe I can't go back, and that's why I'm at the police station. So police officers need training. We need counselors who have got training, who are in specific council areas. They need to build council homes or areas, especially in the rural areas where a lot of this GBV is actually happening. They don't have access to people to talk to or to people to help them or for people to actually arrest these men who are affecting them in this way. And that's why these things are happening. So I think financially the government needs to get involved in training and building council centers and even halfway homes where women can run or can go to and feel safe, and not necessarily go there and feel like they're going to be judged or feel like that they would rather be at home than be in a place that doesn't have food and that's not going to look after them if they go there to get away from their partner. So there's many ways that these things can be combated, but it's the action that's not happening. We can talk about it as much as we want until we turn purple.
And I think that's what I'm tired of. Like,
Know what
we've
I mean?
been talking about it, and it's like, how do we close this gap between knowledge and action? 3 decades later, it's still a chat, and it's like we've gotten into religion, the cycle. Yes, it's the 25th. We have to observe for 16 days, and then after that, it's like we go back to normal. And I think for me, that's the biggest tension. I remember when I started voice training here at the studio, like I would train a couple of people, right? And I would always be conflicted after training because it's like I train people and then what? And I wanted to play an even bigger role post the training. And so what I started doing is I started contacting agencies, voiceover agencies. And my comms with them was, hey, this is who I am. And I do voice training, vocal training. Right? Is it fine if I send people your way after training them? This is my record, blah, 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 blah. And the response would be, sure, if a person can get into the booth and be professional and deliver a script without a lot of hassles, then we're fine, right? And so I felt that I was doing something, I was closing a gap, that conflict, that frustration. Because I'm helping people, but it feels like I'm not helping them, And I think that's what we need, beyond like the talking and the training. Like, what other steps can we take? And I think what you're saying is, yeah, I like that.
I think for me, bro, if I'm being honest, and this is also just my own observation, and it's that we are not creating enough hostile environments for such things to thrive. And when we started, you said it's silly season. We already know like what type of season we're gonna get into. For me to bring up a conversation like what we're trying to do now is like someone standing up at a wedding, giving a speech and mentioning that my husband is beating me up. It's like people came here to celebrate. We're trying to have a good time. We're not denouncing what you're going through might be a bad thing or whatever the case. But the timing of it all is that how many people are actually going to stand to attention to what the person is saying, So I feel like this season is also very diluted by We all know it's dizzy date, party after party, all of those things. Wabo. So the conversation of, or the sincerity of the GBV or 16 days, all of that, for me personally, I feel like it's very diluted by all of these other escapes that happen, you know, in that sense to say, Hore, it's not really hostile for people, you know. Many of these things are turned into social events. Go took 16 days of activism, mara ra tseba hore se lo kgaola. Go lo bujupa, e lo ba party, e tlo ba monate until 3 a.m. Right? But at the end of the day, we're saying 16 days of activism.
That's my
Yeah.
conflict.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, who's being activated there, or what are we really activating or mobilizing? So for me, it's like, Askis, for me, it's like, if we can actually engage those spaces that allow these escapes or allow these, and I know it's a tough conversation because now it involves like people who actually host or whatever the case might be, to be like, maybe we need to close business for this week, for the environment to be tense and hostile, for change to happen. I think for me, Leona to ya Friday, the Women for Change thing, they created a hostile environment. They made sure that we feel.
Was it hostile?
For me, I feel like it was hostile, you know. And by hostile, I mean it in a sense, Yauri. You couldn't do whatever it is that you wanted to do. Like, for instance, I'll use an example. Nadia wanted to drop a song on Friday, and she was like, the timing of this thing is off. Let me rather push it. And there were there's other examples of
hear
people
what you
who
mean.
wanted to do something on the Friday, but
hear what you
the
mean.
environment wasn't allowing.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
It was hostile, you know? Like, it's that day in South Africa where we're saying it's a shutdown because of 1, 2, 3. I'm not gonna be posting about one.
It's actually important what you're saying. Sorry. Even like with the promos that we normally do for the podcast, we didn't do any promos.
Yeah.
Because we thought, this is happening.
Yeah,
This is what is being spotlighted.
yeah.
And like, just take a chill pill.
Yeah, there's this content that needed to be released for social influencers that I shoot for, and they were like, not today. Campaigns were like, not today. Wabo. So that hostility is what I'm talking about. To say, hore, ra tseba hore ka bo di 16 or whatever the case might be, sa kgaowa ko Cornhill or sa
Yeah.
kgaowa kae kae Soweto, whatever the case. So for me, is if those establishments or places of manate, man, I don't know how to put it, can be engaged in that sense. Not to say, to hell with your business, shut down your business, we don't want, no. But to say, Hori, this is what we're trying to achieve with this conversation. Can you help? How can you help? If you have a pitch or a proposal on how to engage them, then you can do tell for, yo, on this day, Tima Delight, Tima, re batla ho create a hostile environment that more people can ask, why is Rockets closed? Why is not happening? Usually, this is what happens off Cedar Square on this day. Why is it not happening? And if we can create enough hostility around it, then I think we can engage people and be like, yo, there's an issue here that needs to be addressed.
100%. I mean, look, you basically like rounded it up the way that I was also going to mention it as well, is that we need to create that discomfort. And I think, like you're mentioning, because it is silly season now, generally speaking, nobody wants to think about serious things because it's December. We wanna defrost. We wanna just have a good time and just have a good time. But I think it is important to have the 16 days of activism in December so that we can also be reminded to say, during this time, please beware that there is this thing that we're still combating as a country. And because we're going into such a silly season, please be mindful of your actions. Please be mindful of the people that you surround yourself with.
Yeah.
At some point, also then hold them accountable. Because if it leads into December, you've also got that at the back of your mind. Go to, hey, I was observing this thing 10 days ago. Let me make sure that I carry it on throughout my December. Not something that, if 16 days of activism happen in April, come December, we've completely forgotten about it. Do you know what I mean? And I think, like you're mentioning, it's important for it to still be there, to make that discomfort in a time like this, where yes, we are going to have a good time, we're going to, throw morals to the side, but we're doing it responsibly. We're doing it at a point where we understand that there is a big crisis that we have in this country and we need to pay attention to it. We need to constantly think about it and make sure that we are looking after the people in our lives. We're looking after the women and children in our lives. Because essentially, at the end of the day, when we say GBV, we are talking about femicide. We are talking about the women who are at the weaker point of this
Definitely.
conversation. And whether we like it or not, we need to then also have the conversation to say the men are the problem. The men are the ones who are effecting this violence on women. And how do we combat them and how do we hold them accountable and create that hostility that you're talking about? So, yeah, man, please keep those purple profiles pictures up for the duration of the 16 days of activism. If you change it after, that's also fine. But let's just leave it up until the 10th of December, just to, observe a little bit longer.
I am conflicted. I won't lie. I mean, big ups for the fact that we are observing, these 16 days, and that it coincides with the festive season. In the same breath, I think and I feel that a lot of people are aloof at this time of the year. People are not present. Like, akinahane lo tse ngata.
Yeah.
I just come from a crazy 19 months of studying. Like, right now, I just want to chill. So I think for me, the conflict is a lot of people are in that mind state where it's like, I give into Zangat. So observing this thing only at this time of the year, I think it might be problematic because, again, I'm not thinking about these things. I don't want to think about these things, and I might not add value in any
To
way.
the cause.
You know what I mean? So I think that's the problem. It's like you saying there's a big event happening on the 25th, and then on the 10th, you are going to start gymming. Like this, you're not going to really achieve a lot at the gym. If your plan is to lose 5 kgs between the 10th and the 25th, it's not going to happen. So I think what we should start to look at is how can we incorporate observing the entire year? How do we do that?
Okay.
How does that practically look?
I hear you
think
now.
that's what we should be looking at.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was about to rebuttal you there, but now that you've said, okay, we need to observe it for the whole year, it makes a little bit more sense.
Because that's how you grow a muscle also,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, we have to keep it going and not necessarily make it 16 days. But I think it is in itself that let's pay attention during this time, also so that it's highlighted during this time. But it should be highlighted throughout the year. But I think the importance of it also happening now is to also then keep it at the back of your mind so that you can go into this festive season understanding how important it is for us to actually hold people accountable in
Yeah.
our personal spaces.
Yeah.
So you're not necessarily going to an event, you're not going to a march, you're not going to do anything on the 16 days, but it's about you as a South African saying, how am I going to be better and change the country? Because also sometimes you can't change the world in a day. Do you know what I mean? You need to do it a little by little. And I think that's what they're trying to do with the 16 days. Say, let's start little, and then at some point it will grow to maybe 30 days. Then it's 2 months, and then it's or 1 year, or whatever the case may be. Because we need to also then effect change slowly. It's not going to happen overnight. We would like to happen overnight.
Because
yes.
it's been 3 decades.
Huh?
It's been 3 decades.
For change.
Yeah, it's that's my conflict. It's literally been 3 decades. It can't be a 16 days thing at the end of the year. Again, people are not present. That's my conflict. You're not thinking, to your point, what will go over, no.
Yeah, like
People, think about it. You've worked the entire year. You've done all these things the entire year. And the only time where you can actually rest, and be centered, quote unquote, is during the festive season. That's also when a lot of people take leave. That's when a lot of companies close, right? There's so many things that I was not able to do throughout the year, and now I have this time where I can do whatever it is that I want to do. I can sit down, wake up in the morning, and just binge watch a series. I can wake up at 12, at 1 a.m. At 1 p.m. I can do whatever I want to do. So the fact that this thing is happening at this time of the year, I think, is very problematic. I hear what you're saying.
Yeah. I,
I don't see how effective it is.
Yeah, because I think we need to also take note of the fact that the 16 days are strategic. It's not just random days in a year. It's the 25th, which was like a woman's elimination from violence. It's an international thing. To the 10th, where it's like a human rights thing. Like, these are international days where it's not just random. What I'm trying to say, it's not just, you can't just say from the 3rd of May to the 10th of June, you know? Like, it's strategic to say it's these days, right? So that's why for me, I'm like, for me personally, the conversation needs to engage these places of escape. If we don't, because for me, it's like, imagine if, because we just want to groove, whatever the case might be. Imagine if, sorry for mentioning their names, Tiger's Milk, Rockets, Cubana, all of these places that people go to, where like, for this weekend, we are all not operating, you know? And I understand it's a business thing. Like, we can't just be expected. I don't have that type of business, so I don't know what it takes to shut down a day in your thingy, wabo. But for me, it's where these organizations that stand up for these things come in and say, how can we, as government or whatever the case might be, engage places that have influence? Because these places have influence. Whether we like it or not, these places have influence. And at the end of the day, if that influence can be engaged in a sense that can contribute to these organizations or moves of change or whatever the case might be, I believe it would actually get the society to be like, yo, like it's hostile now. It's like, what do we do now? You understand? And I feel like with also what you're saying, Jorge, in this time, in this time where people want to have recess and or whatever the case might be, like distress rather, that's the word I'm looking for. The whole year I've been studying, I've been working, I've been doing this. Imagine if you want that, that's what you want to do, but you can't do it. That frustration that will come from that. And I'm like, hey, Joe, we need to turn our attention to this. Wabo.
What do you mean by can't? Can denotes ability. You need to remember that. So when you say can't, what do you mean by that?
What do you mean? In terms of?
You say, oh, recess, but you can't. What do you mean?
Oh, no,
can't?
I mean, you don't have places of escape to do that. Like there
If these venues are closed,
if these venues are closed.
Yeah, but guys, you're speaking to one segment of the population. Not everybody goes to these venues. Not everybody goes to clubbing and so on and so forth. So I agree with what you're saying.
Yeah.
I'm just saying the fact that it's a thing, 16 days, December, and then that's it. That is my tension. That's what I'm conflicted with.
You wanted to be observed the whole year.
I don't know, but you do not grow a muscle in 2 weeks.
100%.
It doesn't work like that. And at foundational level, we are having the same conversation.
Yep.
But I think it's how they are executing.
Yeah.
That is what I'm conflicted with. Yeah.
Yeah, no, because the purpose of these days isn't to grow the muscle, right?
Is it not?
No, it's not. Because now you're going to say June 16, you can't do it one day. You're going to say 27th of April, can't do it one day.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to get to is that at the end of the day, when we observe these things, we're not necessarily trying to say we're starting from scratch. Rabo. That's the purpose of saying it's been 30 years. In the 30 years, what has been done so that this day we're not trying to be like we're growing a muscle. We should have been growing the muscle for these 30 years. So now we're bringing their attention to say, muscle into fokola. This muscle that we've been trying to grow into fokola. And what are we doing about this muscle? You know? That's where I would say, because now we can't say we need another 30 years. We need to be like, yo, we need to move because now we're safe.
Let me ask you this: Why your relationship with Christ, right? It goes beyond Easter weekend.
Yeah.
Why is that? Why do you not only go to church on Easter?
Because it's the relationship that you've grown. There's home cell, there's church every Sunday.
But that's my point exactly. And that's how you get stronger.
Yes. No, that we don't disagree. We're just saying the observation, though, still needs to be highlighted at this time.
Because also to that point, Easter is the weekend that we obviously then go to church, we observe Jesus Christ and what he has sacrificed for us, fine. But you also still go to church every week to then learn about those things, correct? we need to start somewhere. And there in a position where, for instance, with church, if you're going to church, you are choosing to observe it. You are choosing to get involved. You are understanding the importance of this weekend, and for you to then attend every Sunday. Correct. The importance of people actually taking GBV seriously needs to start somewhere. People are not taking it seriously, number one. So they're not going to attend it every Sunday.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying, guys. We want to get people to be constantly involved in this.
Yes.
So if we observe once a year, it's not going to help people because it's that thing, y'all. Like, what is it? Out of mind, out of sight, whatever it is that they say. And to get people to constantly observe, you have to constantly be doing things. You need to get them to a point where they are building a relationship with this thing.
Yes.
And that's my issue. We don't have that.
But that's exactly.
So we can observe. It's
but
fine.
that's exactly what Women for Change is trying to do. That's what they were trying to get to then say this thing needs to be observed and needs to be taken seriously. That is why they were fighting for the government to then declare it a national disaster, for it to be taken seriously on a daily basis, and not make it a thing of, oh, we only observe it once a year, because they understood the importance of it being looked at every single day, and a national council looking at it every single day, where there is resources being put towards it every single day. We did not have that because government wasn't taking it seriously.
Yeah.
And that was the whole point of the marches that happened on the 21st of November, was to say, we are dying every day. Pay attention every day.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think there was a change because, yes, it's been 30 decades of us talking about it. But what the Women for Change did on the 21st of November, I think it's at least a good step in the right direction to make people pay attention and to make the president pay attention so he can make a note of it and he can implement processes to make it a daily issue.
Yeah. So to now I'm saying they can't protest every day.
No, it's not protesting. I'm not talking
Not
about
protest,
protesting.
I mean, but they can't do what they did on the 21st every day. You understand? But they needed that day to observe it. You understand? So they grew the muscle in the process of like trying to engage people, do this, do that, do this, do that. So Nakiona Buang in terms of and like what I agree with Hori. It's not, let's say it's not the majority of the population that goes to these establishments.
Yeah.
But it's a portion. You know, I'm coming from my world. You know, I'm speaking from my world to say, if I were to engage my world, this is at least how I would say, Hori. Wabona, if we can engage these institutions of influence, we can start engaging people on a more serious note to say, Hori, this thing is serasi, cooperation in a different way.
And it could also even come down to, I mean, the fact that it's been declared a national disaster. It might not necessarily be the affluent areas that we go to where we go to groove. It could even be in the rural areas where the local tavern is open. During the national disaster of COVID, all liquor stores were closed because we needed to be safe in our homes and to stay home.
Yeah.
The liquor store must close.
Yeah.
In those taverns,
As much
in
as
those
it's
smaller
not everyone
areas.
who drinks, but
do you know
close.
why? Because it's generally in places where there's alcohol, where the alcohol then escalates situations, then there's sexual assault, there's rape, there's violence, there's murder. So you get to the root of the issue. Where are these places? Where are these actions happening, and how are they escalated? They're escalated when there's alcohol involved. Okay, so then at this point in time, maybe on this day, let's create the hostility. Let's close it. If you are open, you're going to be shut down. As a business owner, I don't want to be shut down. I will close for that one day to observe what I need to observe so that I can continue my business post the situation. Do you understand? The same way that the business owners also chose to do it during COVID. They didn't have a choice. Government must implore those places and force those situations and shut it down.
I hear you guys. You shut it down. People still have access to alcohol. I don't know, guys.
But it's been made difficult. It's the hostility that you're creating.
My biggest desire is, and I think I've mentioned this. If I haven't, I'm going to mention it. I want to be a girl dad. That is my desire. And so these are things that I think about fervently, you know, with a lot of fervor and passion, because I'm just like, now I have girl children, you know, and they enter the society. What do they have to deal with when a person is not here, and so on and so forth, you know? So I think just looking ahead, that's how I would want society to be, where It's not just a December thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it's a yearly thing, not necessarily having protests, but I think reminding people that, hey, these are the stats. You mentioned stats the other episode about a woman being killed. You said
About women are killed every 2 hours.
every 2 hours, right? And it's like, it's crazy, But I definitely hear you guys. I hear you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember with that stat, I think if you practicalize it, I remember there was a joke Trevor did about, I think it was HIV back then when he was still in school, to say that every 1 in 5 persons will get HIV, and he did a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, bah, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, I remember
bubble.
that joke.
Yeah, and if you think about it contextually about what you're saying is, if you go 1 hour, 2 hour, in my world, I don't know how many women would die.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? And if that's as real, then it gets me involved as a man, to what you were saying earlier, to say, Hori, hey man, being involved is not just about what? Like engaging the highest position of government, but rather just holding the next person next to you responsible, And if we can create that, even to real for that, I feel like that's a better place to start. Yeah.
That's very interesting. I want us to jump into the spotlight. There's an influencer who's trending. I'm not going to mention any names, but he's trending. I think somebody accused him of sexual violence. So I just want to read this part here. It says, on November 21st, a particular South African influencer learned of claims from an account detailing an alleged attempted sexual assault, along with anonymous stories of past incidents shared online. He then stated that he knows nothing of the accuser or any involvement. He opposes sexual violence, and he urged formal charges with the police, promising full cooperation. No police reports have surfaced yet, as opinions divide over his response amid South Africa's challenges with low conviction rates for such cases. The influencer ended up apologizing to the followers for upsetting them. Now, I want us to talk about a couple of underlying issues here. The first one being the history and psychology behind distrust of police and the courts. And my question to you guys is, does reporting such things on social media, does it help?
To some extent. I think reporting certain things on social media, should they be true, because there's also a truth factor that needs to come into play. I do think it helps if you felt that going to the police didn't solve my situation. There's a lot of people who use social media to raise awareness on their particular incident, and then they hope that the people around them will hold this person accountable for whatever's been done to them. So it's a gift and a curse, social media, because you want to use it for the right reasons. Some people use it for the incorrect reasons, and that's why I say, if there's truth in the matter, 100%, I believe in it. I've done it before on my own, for my own things. It wasn't a sexual issue, but it was more so like I had an issue with my car, and then I wasn't getting attention. I went back to the car dealership. I said, you guys, brought my car in for service. I did 1, 2, 3. They ignored me. The moment I started blasting it on social media, all of a sudden I got attention. All of a sudden my car was fixed.
You out.
All of a sudden everything was being sorted out. Do you understand? So that's why I'm saying it needs to be used for the correct reasons. And people go to social media because they feel they can't go to the police station. People go to social media because they feel like there aren't places to hold these people accountable. I don't want my personal drama to be put out on social media, right? I would rather deal with it on my own, whatever situation happened with me. And I assume this is the same for other women as well, because if they're bringing up conversations that happened long ago, it means they weren't comfortable enough talking about it. But they also aren't getting assistance if they go to a police station. They're not getting assistance if they are going to whatever community center or whatever
Yeah.
the case may be around them. So if they feel they're only going to get justice through social media, that is their platform.
Sure.
And that's why I'm saying there's nothing wrong with using it should the story be true. I worry about sometimes when there are accusations being made and sometimes they're incorrect, because that dilutes how we're going to affect the situation and how we're going to help GBV and the 16 days of activism and whatever the case is. Because there are some stories that are incorrect that now dilute the want to help people. Because now people sit back and they say, now we're pulling it apart. Because there's a lot of people who then say, I always believe the woman. I also, as a female, I will always believe the female first. And I will want to figure out what actually happened, what are the situations, how did you get there? But there are situations where sometimes it is incorrect and then it makes it difficult for people to get involved. Where now, sometimes people sit back and they say, I don't know if I want to get involved in this. Let's see. Let's get more evidence first.
Yeah.
Let's put the evidence on the table first before we believe you. And it's so unfortunate that we've gotten to that point where women can't feel that they won't be believed on their word if they've experienced a situation. Because if I've experienced sexual assault, what proof am I going to give to you? Especially if it's something that happened 10 years ago and I didn't feel comfortable enough to go to a police station. I didn't feel comfortable enough to go to a hospital where they can make a rape kit, because a rape kit has to be happened at that point in time when you have been raped. If I've gone through all this trauma, I don't even have the words to go to a clinic and say, please help me, this is what happened to me. I still need to find the words to speak about it, not even to a stranger at a hospital, let alone my own family and my friends. So if I haven't done the rape kit in the 24 hours of it happening, we've lost the evidence that I'm supposedly supposed to happen. But it still happened to me. That is still an experience that's gone through.
Sure.
That's the difficulty in these situations. So I really implore women to use it carefully. I'm not saying don't do it. I will believe you if you put it out there on social media, but please let it be true.
Don't be punitive.
Do you understand? Yeah.
Do you think there's enough? Do you think there's enough education around sexual assault, and by education I mean consent and bystander responsibility and so on and so forth? Do you think there's enough education around that?
No, I don't think there is.
In fact, let me ask you guys, what is consent?
Consent is constantly asking, are you okay? Can we continue? Can we continue? And that consent needs to happen from a cognitive person. That person also needs to know what they are doing. Are they agreeing to what they want to do? And at every step, you're constantly checking.
So we this is so vivid.
No, it's fine. Be vivid, because that's what we need to do. We can't keep, covering it up with like blanket words. Say what you need to say so that people understand the importance of consent.
We are mid-rounds. Do I stop at some point and ask you, hey, is this fine?
Sometimes you do.
100%.
Do I continue?
100%. Because if you're going to move on to doing something different, let's say you start with foreplay, right? And the girl is okay with the foreplay. You guys are kissing, you're on the couch, kumnandi. And at this point, also, please understand that she needs to be sober enough to have this conversation. Because if she's too drunk, that's not consent. Yeah. Because you've already taken advantage of the situation. Yeah. Because she's not thinking clearly.
Yeah.
Now, if she is sober enough to have this conversation, you're on the couch, you're having a good time. Maybe you start with foreplay. Maybe, you're kissing, you're doing whatever. Now it gets to a point where you're taking off her pants. Ask again, is this okay? If she says yes, then you continue. Then you ask again, before you put on the condom, is this okay? She must say yes. Because there comes a point when a woman will also feel uncomfortable and they don't know how to speak up because they feel, I have to continue because now I'm here, but I don't want to do this. Give them the opportunity to then have that say yes or no. Because maybe they don't want to continue, but they feel pressurized by the situation. That's where consent comes in. That's why you constantly have to check, is this okay? You're moving in now. You've now done the deed and maybe you want to continue. Maybe you want to turn her over and do doggy style or whatever the conversation is. She might not be comfortable with that. Is this okay? She must say yes. I'm not necessarily saying sit up and have a conference about the next step of your sexual actions, no. But you're asking just to make sure, okay, cool, are you still okay? Are you still okay? Okay, and then you move over, you're kissing, you're caressing, you're being sensitive in the conversation. I'm not saying turn it into a meeting, no.
Or G20.
No, it's not a G20 in the bathroom, in the bedroom, or whatever. No, I'm saying be central about it, yes, but you're just constantly making sure, are you okay? Are you fine? The same way you would still be like, are you enjoying this? Because I think you're going to ask, are you enjoying this? Because if you're not, you're doing something wrong. Do you know what I mean? So the same way you would ask, do you like that? You can also ask, are you okay?
Yeah.
That is the consent people are talking about. Constantly ask, because there's plenty of situations where women do things because they feel pressurized because, "Oh, I've already taken off my pants, I have to continue." Maybe she doesn't want to continue.
Yeah.
Because maybe all she was able to handle in the moment was the foreplay.
Somebody might argue, and that somebody's not me,
Definitely.
but somebody might argue that, hey, but it's not my responsibility to ask all these questions.
Aibo!
Wait, what?
Yes.
Whose responsibility is it?
No, I mean, like, if we are already doing the deed,
Oh, okay.
right? Like, it's not my, why should I be asking
No, I'm not
these
saying.
questions? Somebody might have that mindset
Yes.
Oh, okay.
to say it doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense because it's never been enforced for them to make sense. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So because society has said, once she's in your bedroom, let's go. And because society hasn't implored the idea of consent, they don't think it's their responsibility. We are now imploring it to say, do it. Because before, it wasn't something that was inherent. The same way you can say, oh, is it my responsibility to wear a condom? Or I've always been fine. We are now imploring South Africans to wear condoms. It is now something that must change because it wasn't done before. Why is it that now, all of a sudden, because society is affecting you to wear condoms, now it's okay because we've spoken
Yeah,
about
yeah.
it enough. Now we're speaking about it enough with consent. You must do it. Don't tell me about it's not my responsibility. I'm telling you to do it. And I'm not saying ask every 2 seconds, but whenever you're moving on to a different phase of the sexual act, you're just checking, are you okay? She will tell you if at that point the woman says, I'm fine, you don't have to ask, then fine, you can stop asking.
Bruh, I don't know.
That's interesting.
I completely...
How did we get to a point of using condoms? Because we spoke about it. It wasn't a thing
Yeah.
before.
Choice.
There you go.
Yeah, so I genuinely agree with you. Like, bruh, if I'm being honest, one of the things that I've always been scared of in my life is a woman coming to me and saying that I didn't consent to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Wabo. And in my what's the word? I don't know. In my fear of that, I've just made it a thing to, I'm either not gonna do this thing, or my man, I'm gonna record you. You know, I will record you, bro. Like, and that's always been my thing, you know. Sorry.
So white car. No.
No. None of us.
I'm one of these spokespersons at G20. But yeah, like for me, like I've always made it a thing to like, hey man, how do I establish that conversation of consent with, before it even became like a consent thing or whatever the case? Because now, with what you're saying, that thing, consent needs to be, you know, and I can feel with layers. Because now, with what you're introducing, that thing, intoxication has been a new layer into consent. To say, hore, people will come out and say, no, but she agreed. But and then now it's like, yeah, but was she or he intoxicated? And now it disqualifies everything. And it's like, it's a different conversation of consent now. Wabo. And I actually just learned now, like literally this week, that, yeah, about a day or two ago, that there's this thing now called investment. So with what you're saying about the woman being scared or fearful to say, stop, is because they believe they've been invested in. You know, this guy took me out on a date. He fetched me. We went on a date. We had drinks and whatever. So therefore, I'm gonna allow him to do any and everything that he wants to do because he's invested in me. And so much so of the guy as well. The guy also has that mentality of, no, I've invested in you, and therefore you're gonna do any and everything that I want you to do. Wabo. I've had female friends that back then when you're like in grade 12, almost at grade 13. But yeah, first year, the girls in your circle, they don't see, let me not say probably, they didn't see us as the their type of guys. They went for the older gents and whatever. Wabo. So when we'd go out, they'd spend the rest of the night with those brews and we'd buy them bottles and whatever the case. And at the end of the night, the guys want to leave with them and they want to leave with us. And now we're like,
Yeah.
because now we didn't even buy you a single drink. Now those guys feel entitled to that.
Yeah.
Wabo. And they're our mans. Wabo. And now it's like, hey man, how do I have a conversation with Spiwe,
Yeah.
who's in this position now that he feels entitled to my friend who's Balisa? And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, how do we then have this conversation? Conversation for another day. But I'm just trying to get to that
Yeah.
element where we're saying, Hore, even the whole thing of that consent and investment, it's a thing now for me that I believe needs to be introduced to the whole consent thing to say, Hore, just because you bought her drink, just because you bought her food or whatever the case might be, you don't have, and it goes twofold. Just because you bought them drinks, food, whatever the case might be, in this case we're talking about females, Hore, it doesn't give you the right to do any and everything to them, Wabo. Like what you're saying, it may feel like or sound like every time. I'm taking off your shoes now. Yes, are you fine? I'm taking off your socks. Yes, Ushab. I'm taking off your pants. My man, I don't care about the romance and this thing. I don't care about the foreplay. I'd rather sound like I'm a person who doesn't even have the skill of foreplay. But as long as the person that you are having this moment with is okay with it. Because I feel like if we were to be honest, there are brewers who've also been in those situations where they could have said, hey man, nah. I'm that brewer. I'm joking. But yeah, you just being in those situations where it's like, hey man, we really need to be real about these type of things
Yeah.
and say, what the condom thing is a real thing, you know?
Let's have this conversation because I think, like you're mentioning, even with investment, it's this, idea that, but I spent money on you, so essentially you need to come home with me. And it's like, no, but isn't that courting? Because wasn't there a time where you would take a woman out on a date and you'd probably only be able to kiss her for the first time after the fifth date? Why must it happen immediately now? Why have the times changed? Do you know what I mean? Because a woman showing interest in you doesn't necessarily mean that she's ready to sleep with you. It could be that she wants to get to know you and maybe she wants to develop a relationship. But men automatically think, and not all men, I know I'm generalizing, but there is this idea that because I've now bought you drinks at the club, you have to come home with me tonight. No, maybe I also just wanted to be out and you offered to buy me a drink and I said yes. I had a drink and now I want to go home. I can give you my number. We can talk about it later. Maybe we can expand this conversation, but don't expect anything out of it because you have offered it. I have agreed. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now we're in a position where, again, with the consent, maybe I do agree to go back with you because, we've had this amazing night or amazing date or whatever the case is. You still have to ask, are you okay? Can we move on to the next step? The woman will say yes or no. And there will come a point where the girl also gets frustrated. She's like, okay, maybe don't ask. If she's in, she's in. She'll tell you. Best believe it. She will make it apparent to you. She will tell you, don't worry, I'm in for this, let's do. If she is
Yeah.
outright and she's honest and she says, I'm in this, let's do this, I want it, then by all means, go ahead to the next step. But I think the issue of consent comes in with there is don't create the pressure. Make it comfortable enough for the woman to also feel like she can ask. I've had instances where I've actually appreciated, while we are busy on the couch, to actually say, oh wow, he actually asked if I'm okay. And you feel so much better to be in that position and you feel safe because it's about safety at the end of the day. I feel safe in this person's hands because he cares about my feelings. He cares about where the next step is taking in the situation that we're in. And I can now open myself up to him because I feel safe. If I don't feel safe, I also need to have the platform to say no. And he must accept it because that is the safety. I need to feel safe enough to say no. I need to feel safe enough to say yes. And that's what you need to want for your girls when you have them. Are they in positions to feel safe enough with a particular person that they are with?
100%.
Yeah.
It's all about safety at the end of the day.
It's all about safety.
And the safety is also being comfortable enough to say no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a comment that was made about this particular influencer that ever since he built this really beautiful house, that ever since he built the house, he started gaining enemies. And now somebody's introducing that layer to this whole sexual violence thing, that people are being punitive because you've started to achieve a level of success. And so as a result, we must drag you down. But I'm like, so many people came out to say, do you remember this? Do you remember that? And he's denying everything. And yeah, I don't know.
It's crazy for me when more than one person can account for a certain situation. And I don't necessarily know this influence. I don't even know who you're talking about, to be fair. I don't even see this thing trending.
Yeah.
But one thing that I've always observed, especially in situations where more than one person can account with detail about a certain situation, about a person, I always say where there's smoke, there's fire. It might not have escalated or might not be whatever might be detailed or whatever the case is, but there's always some truth in the matter. There's always one situation that has happened where you have to start looking twice at this person and be like, but then why are 5 people talking the same thing about you?
Yeah.
And you're the only one who's saying no. And why are they all detailing the same details about you? You start to question and ask yourself, okay, cool. I want to hear your side of the story because you're defending yourself. And that's the whole point of a court system, correct? Is that there's all this amount of evidence and there's also then your story. It's their word against yours. At what point are we then settling in on the facts? And that's why it's always important to also then sit back and say, okay, but let's hear everybody out.
Yeah.
This guy can say what he wants, but why are there 5 people saying the same thing about you?
Yeah. For me, I want to go back to what you said. I agree with you saying like the truth has to be like a leading role
Yes.
in it all, you know, because there has been a lot of instances also where that manner of reality or that reality being used as a weapon, you know, to just use it as a weapon against someone to say, oh, I didn't like it because of 1, 2, 3, 4. You know, I just saw like a king video yesterday. Some lady killed her partner's daughter out of Homkwatela, you know, like she's on trial now.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's a lady. She killed the partner's daughter because Onakwatese the partner, you know, and it's like for me, it's something like that really just sort of dilutes what women are trying to do in their attempt to fight like those type of injustices against themselves.
Right.
Babo, because now it's just a eruption of, yeah, you see, even they do this, and it's like, no, but that's not the time. Like, that's not the conversation that we're trying to have, Babo. And for me, it's as dangerous as someone who will just jump on the wagon and just say, yeah, Linda, this injustice has been served. I just want to go back to what you were saying about, is there enough education around these things? And I'm not sure if there is, because
I don't think there is.
yeah, because I think most of the time, as a quote unquote victim or someone who might have experienced an injustice against like a perpetrator, whatever the case might be, it only becomes apparent when someone else mentions it, you know, oh no, man, this guy did this, and you're like, yeah, actually, Linna, wabo. But at the time, I was convinced that, you know, maybe I was giving consent and whatever the case.
Or also you were pressured to do something
pressured.
that you were uncomfortable about.
And-
because
yeah.
in that point in time, you felt this is the only way to do things, or maybe you also felt uncomfortable and maybe you didn't have opportunities to even speak about it.
Yeah.
You know?
Nah. And now hearing someone else talk about it gives you that courage.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then that courage comes up, and that's why I'm saying it's difficult, because when there is a sexual assault situation and maybe that person doesn't go to the hospital for a kit to be made, it's that thing that one person will keep quiet because they don't know how to speak, they can't find the words, they don't have the comfort to even tell their own friends, let alone their parents, let alone the people around them. But there is safety in numbers, because now one person has spoken about this one person who has done the similar thing that happened to me. Mine might have happened 10 years ago. It still happened. And now that there's more people,
Yeah.
we can have the conversation and bring it up, and I can also then bring in my layer of what actually happened and then put the evidence together.
Yeah.
Because maybe the evidence is not in the physical sense of a rape kit, but the detailing is the evidence that you would need in a situation like this. you know?
Wow, guys.
Yeah.
A lot has been said, hey? I am inspired by this conversation, I won't lie. As we close, hopefully this thing can open. What are you guys getting up to in December, just by the way?
I'm working.
Yeah, okay.
The whole of
Yes, I have to work. I have to work throughout December because, like I said, there's no gigs, there's no events in January.
Yeah.
So I generally try to double time it in December, so that I can at least cover for both months. And then I do go on a holiday maybe in Jan.
Yeah.
That's generally the thing for me.
yeah. I'll be working, but until like mid-month towards the Christmas week.
Yeah.
Going home again. Yeah.
Same here. Same
Going
here.
home.
Going home with your wife.
Going home with my wife. Going home with my wife. Yeah, man.
Yes,
Looking
sir.
forward to that. Yeah.
So as we close, right, just you said something very interesting. And I want to say that this is something I wrote, that we need to do away with the not all men narrative.
Yeah.
Everyone knows that not all men abuse, rape, and kill women. We all know that.
Yeah.
However, saying not all men derails and dismisses the lived experiences of women and young girls. It says that you are not comfortable discussing misogyny. You're making it about you when it's not about you. You're not trying to aid or positively add to the situation. And because you're trying to look good by stripping yourself from any blame, you overlook the actual problem.
100%.
This is bigger than any of us. It's bigger than bruised egos. Take a stand. The little you do will go a long way.
100%.
Lovely.
No notes.
And that is the self-gov note.
Away.
Given us here with the what is it? The breakaway note.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. Look, I think we've said a lot for today, and 100% agree with that last note, the self-love note. And I think we need to use this time to kind of think about these conversations. It's a very serious chat to have, but let it live in your mind.
Yes.
Going into December, so that you're also very aware of your surroundings, the people around you, how you portray yourself, women and men, because it can go both ways. And just think about how you interact. And yes, go out and have fun and do what you need to do. Drink. I mean, I'm obviously, you guys know, I always advocate for it, but do it responsibly. That's always what I advocate for. Responsible drinking, responsible good time, and looking out for the people around you, and check your surroundings.
Yeah.
Sech, welcome back, brother. Eh?
Thank you so much, brother. Thank you so much. Missed you guys a bit, but what? Am I doing that closing thing?
Yeah,
But me, I can't close.
Everybody, please make sure that you like, subscribe, comment, and share. And man, and be here again next week to join us for the next episode of Self Talk.
Let's go.
Yes.